Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we are talking about Dragon Link, and we're going to go over the combos in more of like a basic understanding of how the deck works, because the amount of times that I have seen people try and play this deck and have more or less no idea what's going on is disheartening. I really do think that, while yes, this deck is difficult to play, there are some very easy basic combos that you can go for. Now, while it may be overwhelming at first, I'm going to just show you some of the basic things that you can do with one or two things, just to end on at least some sort of board. Obviously, as we do with all of the combo videos, I will at the end do some test hands, but we always start off by just talking about the various different cards that you can implement into your deck. Now, this is one of the decks that has probably the most amount of diversity with how you can build it. First of all, because grass is legal in Master Duel, you can 100% play it as a 60-card deck. However, you also don't need to play it at 60 cards. I feel like 45 tends to be really good. You're able to see enough hand traps to slow down your opponent, while still being able to see enough combo pieces, while not, making it bricky, right? You're able to see the extenders that you need to without, without having a combo starter or, just having hand traps or what have you. Seems to be the right balance, but of course, you can still run grass. I'm going to just do the quick, archetypes that are thrown in here, the little engines that are in here, because Dragon Link, as you could tell by just the name, isn't really anything that is specifically archetypal. It is more so just a culmination of all the really good support that we've been given for both Link monsters and more specifically Dragon monsters. And more specifically to that, Dark/Light Dragon monsters, the Chaos kind of dragon engine. So let's start off with the rockets. Rockets are incredible overall, and the main reason for this is because of Quick Launch as well as Striker Dragon. Striker Dragon is a level 4, is a Link 1 for level 4 or lower dragon monsters, which searches out a boot sector launch. Absolutely insane. Also, Quick Launch is a non-once per turn. It's econ, or not econ, emergency teleport, E-Tele for rockets. Absolutely insane. We have Rocket Synchron on normal. It targets a level 7 or, a level 5 or higher Dark Dragon in your graveyard and special summons it, but you are locked into Dark monsters. Rocket Tracer can pop a card on the field in order to special summon a rocket from the deck besides Rocket Tracer, and then it also locks you into Darks from the extra deck, and Rocket Recharger is rather interesting. Normally, it is just the target for your Rocket Tracer. However, it can also, if a Dark monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to target one of those destroyed monsters. Special summon a Dark monster from your graveyard with a different original name from that targeted monster. Basically, what this allows you to do is, if you activate the second effect of Striker Dragon, which pops a card on the field, and then if it's a Link monster, you target a face-up monster you control and a rocket monster in your graveyard, destroy that monster, and if you do, add the other monster to your hand. So basically what you do is you target itself, pop it, add the Rocket Recharger to your hand. The Rocket Recharger will then activate, special summoning itself, or if you already have it in hand, you could special summon it, discard it, not special. You discard it, target the Striker Dragon, and then you can bring back something like Boral End. Pretty good. Next up, we have Absolouter Dragon. If you control a rocket monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, or, more importantly, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a rocket monster from your deck to your hand. This one is the most important, and the reason for that is because Boot Sector Launch is the field spell that is searched off of the Link 1, meaning any of your dragons that you can summon, any of your level 4 or lower, basically any normal summon, will get you into Boot Sector off of the Striker Dragon, because it's just any level 4 or lower dragon monster. Boot Sector Launch says it has 2 summoning conditions, basically. You can special summon it 2 rocket monsters with different names from your hand in defense position. That's just, you just special summon them on a field spell from your hand. Pretty good. So, being able to search them out with the Absolouter is very vital. You can send Absolouter off of a Dragon Ravine. Next up, Boot Sector also says if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon rockets from your from your grave with different names up to the difference. So if your opponent has 3 monsters and you have 0, and you have 3 rockets with different names, Rocket Synchron, Tracer, and Recharger, you can just special summon all 3 as long as this card is still on the field. Pretty nice. Dragon Ravine is the other search target, and the only search target that we actually have in here for Romulus. Romulus searches out Dragon Ravine. Dragon Ravine discards a card to send a dragon. That's it. It's incredibly powerful because it turns on the Absorouter, which can then turn on the Boot Sector Launch. It can also send things like Destrudo to the graveyard, or even something like Seifert, which we will get into in a second. Next up, the second engine that we have in here is the Rose Dragon engine. I'm not a big fan of this one in particular, but there is a bonus to it. If you play this with something like the Adventure engine, you are able to go into Baron and just kind of continue from there. You can do this prior to, you could basically set up an Omni Negate, and then also still have your Rocks Rose to normal summon, or I guess it'd be special summoned, to go into the Striker Dragon and do the whole combo from there, which, again, we'll get into the combos in a second. So yeah, pretty nice there, and then, of course, the one Basil Rose Shoot. Next up, we have the Red Eyes engine, kind of. It's basically the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon engine, with the 3 Black Metal Dragon, which can also chain block your Striker Dragon, or you can do vice versa, whichever one you want more. But basically, you normal summon this, you link it off into your Striker Dragon, and then Striker Dragon, and then this card will add the Darkness Metal Dragon. Darkness Metal Dragon is incredibly powerful. Basically, you just banish a face-up dragon you control in order to special summon it. It's a free inherent special summon, which is very, very nice. That means your opponent can't max C you. Like, you know, if you somehow, like, get into the Striker Dragon and your opponent has a max seed, you drop this guy, and, you know, there you go. But you can special summon you can only special summon it once per turn, but during your main phase, you can special summon a dragon monster from your hand or graveyard just for free. No restrictions, just a free special summon. Don't know why this is a card. This card is insane. Yeah. So there you go. Even the black metal that you link off can then be can be brought back. Oh my gosh, for something like a Romulus. Very nice. Next up, we have Triple Chaos Space. This card should probably always be played at 3. The reason for this is because you send a Light and Dark from your hand in order to add a Light and Dark monster that cannot be normal or special summoned. Or sorry, normal summoned or set. From your deck to your hand with a level from 4 to 8. This basically means that you can either go for a Chaos Dragon Levianeer, depending on if you send a light monster, or you can go for either the Wyver Burster or Collapse Serpent. These are 2 very, very important or useful cards. Reason being, they can both banish one of the different attribute. The light can banish dark, and the dark can banish light from grave in order to freely special summon itself. This means that you are able to, if you are able to get like anything basically into the graveyard, you are able to find the other one, and then special summon it, which also turns on this, which also turns on this, which also does so many different things. That's it. Also, if they're sent to the graveyard, they search the other one. Really nice. Next up, we have Seifert. This card is really important for specifically recycling resources, as well as searching out things like Levianeer and the like. So basically what it does is you can send a number of dragon monsters from your hand and or face-up field, including itself, as cost. So that means if they have something like an Imperm or a Veiler, you can just send this guy away, and then you don't have to deal with that. Add a dragon monster from your deck to your hand, whose levels equal the total original levels of those monsters sent to the graveyard. This basically means that you are able to search out anything as long as you have a corresponding level to search it out. So say, for example, you drew an Absorouter Dragon. What you can do is you can actually send it to the graveyard to trigger the Seifert, which would then also trigger the Absorouter, and you would be able to search out Destrudo and something like a Rocket Tracer. This is very just good in general, but you could also send something like 2 level 4s, say a Rocket Tracer and the Seifert, in order to search out something like a Levianeer. Very solid. Also, you can banish it from the graveyard to target a level 8 light or dark dragon in your graveyard, add it to your hand. This means that you can either recycle something like a Chaos Ruler to put it back into the extra deck, or more likely you can you can add back a Levianeer that has been sent to the graveyard. Very nice. Next up, we have 2 one-ofs that are just, Actually, it's all just a whole bunch of one-ofs that are really good in this deck overall. We have Destrudo. If it's sent to the graveyard or if it's in your hand, you're able to special summon it as long as you control a level 6 or lower monster just by paying half your life points. Very nice, and it's a tuner. Nice. Realistically, the tuner part doesn't come up nearly as much as it used to because Hulk is now banned. Next up, we have Snow. Snow is a crazy card. Read it. Next up, we have Chaos Dragon Legionnaire. Banishing a 3 lights and or darks gives you a very powerful effect. If you're only banishing lights, you could special summon a monster from your graveyard in defense position. If you're only banishing darks, you could shuffle a card away from your opponent's hand into the deck, and you can target 2 cards, or sorry, don't target. Destroy 2 cards on the field if you banish both a light and a dark. This card is absolutely crazy and normally is something you want to go through if you can on the first turn to shuffle away an opponent's monster or card, just so that they have less cards to deal with your board. Next up, we have the Chaos Creator. This card can banish a light and a dark from the grave in order to special summon this card. And then if this card, if you control this card that was special summoned from your hand, you can target 3 of your banished monsters with different names, special summon one of them, and place the rest onto the bottom of the deck. This means that if you have banished anything else for, say, a Wyverburst or a Collapse Serpent, or just whatever else you may have banished, you can go for the Chaos Creator, special summon back in extra material, and then go from there. It's not the greatest, but it is something that's worth considering. Next up, we have Noctivision. Basically, if you summon out a Dark Dragon, which guess what, this is a Dark Dragon, you are able to freely special summon this card from your hand. Then, if it's used as link material, you are able to draw a card. Overall, just a solid card. Next up, obviously, we have Foolish Burial. Very, very valuable. You can dump an Absorrouter, you can dump a Rocket that you can get back off a Striker Dragon, and the like. Also, a good thing about this deck is you can play a myriad of hand traps. A lot of hand traps happen to be light, which is very advantageous for us. Things like Gamma, things like Lancia, things like Effect Veiler, things like Nibiru, all happen to be light. This means that you are able to play these cards, and if they end up in the graveyard, you are able to then banish them for something like a Collapse Serpent, or just have them in grave for things like Legionnaire or Chaos Ruler. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is some of the other, like, things that you can throw in there, depending on what you want. I normally like to play the Dragon Maid engine, and the reason for this is because of Tidying. Tidying is absolutely crazy in this deck, and the reason for it is because you play a lot of dragons. You target a dragon you control in a card your opponent controls, or in their graveyard, return them to the hand. That's the on-field effect. However, you can also banish it to special summon a Dragon Maid monster from your hand or graveyard in defense position. This means that Chamber can find the Tidying, and Tidying can special summon the Chamber, which could have been used for, say, a link material, right? All in all, a very solid little engine, and with something like That Grass Looks Greener, if you're able to get both of these into the graveyard, you're able to then freely special summon an extra material, which does come up quite a bit. So yeah, all in all, these are mostly what I would use in these decks. However, I've seen people use things like the Thunder Dragons. I've seen them use the Adventure Engine, which even post-ban list with Water Enchantress at 1, I still think it's pretty good. I think it's a little bit too bricky for my liking, but it is still very, very solid because it ends on some very strong boards. We have things like Lancia that can be used in tandem with the other hand traps, and a very interesting card that I've seen pop up a little bit more often because of one of the Xyzs that has come out as of late, Galactic Spiral Dragon. While this card is in your hand or graveyard, if you control 2 or more light and or dark dragon monsters, you can freely special summon this card in defense position, but banish it when it leaves the field. During your main phase, you can make all monsters you currently control become level 8 until the end of this turn. So this basically allows you to, again, freely special summon it, because oftentimes you will have 2 light or dark dragons on your side of the field. That's pretty easy. But it also allows you to go into this card. This is one of the newer cards that has been added to the game, and it's insane. You just need 2 or more level 8 monsters, and if you use a monster with a level that is owned by your opponent for the XZ summon of this card, treat it as level 8. Which means you can also steal an opponent's monster, by the way. Neither player can target this card with effects of special summon monsters, also, except those special summoned from the graveyard. But this is where things get interesting. You can detach a material, and then each player sends the top 4 cards of their deck to the graveyard. This means you can load your graveyard up with things like your lights and darks, or what have you. Then, let me read it. Then you can, if any monsters were sent to the graveyard by this effect, you can special summon one of those monsters to your field. Meaning, if either your opponent or you, out of those 8 cards milled, mill a monster, you are able to special summon it to your side of the field and use it as material. There's no restrictions on it. It's not even negated. It's a free special summon. It's a little bit of a gamble, but this does something very, very important, specifically in Master Duel. Master Duel, you don't know what you're going up against because it is a best of 1. And if you're able to go for the zombie vampire, you're able to most often see what your opponent is playing. This allows you to craft a board that specifically will help you against said deck, which is very nice overall. Yeah, moving on to the extra deck. I normally like to play at least 2 Striker Dragon, and it seems like this is the way to play the deck. Just being able to have something that can just be used as link material, even though you only play the 1 boot sector, playing multiple Striker Dragon is very valuable. Mostly for its just ability to get a monster off the field. Next up, we have Quad Boral. This is something that some people play, some people don't, and the reason for it is because it's kind of high roll. It can be very good, but it can also stifle some of your plays. Basically, you discard a card, then target a face-up monster on the field. You basically just target itself, pop it, and then special summon out the 2 rockets from the grave. Then you are locked out of Link 2 or lower monsters for the rest of that turn. This is why it's kind of high roll. Sure, if you have the necessary materials, it may not be that big of an issue, but if this is what you end up going to, you can't end on something like a Masquerena to potentially help you, or something like a Hieratic Seal. So, not exactly the strongest, but it can help if you need to go into something like a Borreload Savage or a Chaos Ruler. Next up, we have Boral End Dragon. This card is just insane. It requires 3+ effect monsters, but it is a Link 5, and cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, neither player can target this card with monster effects. Pretty big dude, right? However, that does mean that a simple imperm shuts this guy down. This card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, pretty nice. And, quick effect, you can target an effect monster on the field, any effect monster, and a rocket monster in your graveyard, negate the effects of that monster on the field, and if you do, special summon the other monster from your graveyard. That is a permanent negate. As long as that monster is on the field, it has its effects negated. Insane! Yeah, I know. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. Meaning, you have a spell speed 4, unrespondable, negate. This card is normally what you want to end on, because not only does it negate, it also recurs your monster. Very nice. Next up, we have the Borreload Savage. We all know this card. Pisty is rather interesting. Normally, what you will do with Pisty is that you will summon it after going into something like a Quad Boral to allow you to have, you will go into it off of the Romulus. You'll summon the Romulus, you'll summon the Pisty, and then you'll go into the Quad Boral. This will give you the ability to summon back a monster from the graveyard to the zone that both the Pisty and the Quad Boral point to. I'm not a big fan of this because it oftentimes isn't really worth the investment to try and get those specific link arrows to line up, but it can be useful if you want to bring back something like, say, a Rocket Tracer that you may not have used the effect of. So it's not terrible, but I'm not the biggest of fans of it. Romulus, on summon, searches Ravine. That's it. That's all you need to know. Next up, we have Chaos Ruler. This card is very good. It mills the top 5 cards of your deck. Well, it mills the top 5, kind of, allowing you to add 1 that would be milled, which is very, very nice. As long as you see a light or a dark monster, you're able to add that to your hand and then mill the rest. This can be very, very overpowered, and it's currently banned in the TCG, rightfully so, but yeah, absolutely insane card. Also, it brings itself back by banishing a light and a dark in the grave. Next up, we have Hieratic Seal. Seals pass. You tribute it in order to... as long as it's in the extra monster zone, you contribute it in order to target a monster on the field. Return a face-up card on the field to the hand. It doesn't target, you return a card from the hand, or from the field to the hand, and if it's tributed, you can special summon a dragon monster from your deck to the to the field, and it becomes 0/0. Normally, this is why I play the Chamber Dragon Raid, because you could just freely special summon this, and then get the effect to grab a Tidying. Or, if you have a Tidying Engrave, you can then also use it to special summon when the monster leaves the field. You could also play something like Brotar as well, because when this card is, if this card is special summoned, you could target a face-up monster on the field, discard a card, and if you do, add a monster from your deck to your hand with the same type and attribute as the target, but a different name. So basically, you target itself and then add something like a Rose Dragon, or a Rocket, or, hey, even a Levianeer. So yeah, you can also play that. I forgot to put that in there. Next up, we have Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. This card is used, or is summoned utilizing the Chaos Ruler, as well as the Rocket Synchron. It's just an Omni-Negate, pretty nice. Something that you will oftentimes end on is the IP Masquerena to spin into the Unicorn. Because it is a dark, it allows you to just kind of end on this, and then potentially you could even go into Apollosa or what have you. But normally you just want to spin something away with the Unicorn. We've talked about the Zombie Vampire. This card's absolutely insane. Then you also have Dark and Access Code. These are just some of the cards that you can add. I've seen people play a myriad of different things. The extra deck, honestly, isn't all that tight. The most important things are things like the Striker Dragon, the Boral End, Borload Savage, Chaos Ruler, Hot Red, Seals, and even Zombie Vampire is optional. Oh, and Romulus. Sorry. Other than that, basically all of the rest of these cards could be something else. It's entirely up to you. And that's what makes this deck, 1, rather difficult to play, but 2, rather inviting, as well as just rewarding to play. So let's hop into the combos and show you how this deck actually performs. Alright, so let's quickly talk about the normal summons that you want to go for in this deck. All of these are pretty decent. However, the best one is the Black Metal Dragon, and probably Chamber Dragon Maid, because they both are able to search out monsters when either when they're summoned or when they are sent to the graveyard. And they kind of just do the most for you in like adding disruption and just good cards overall. Safer is also very good if you have the required levels to search out something like a Chaos Dragon Levianeer, or if you have like a Collapse Serpent that you can search, that could potentially add a follow-up there as well. Also, it being a light is way more valuable than the rest of these being darks. Oftentimes, you do need a light specifically in grave, and so do keep that in mind. However, they all basically go into the same card, that being the Striker Dragon. All of these will, you know, go into the Striker Dragon, and from there you're able to search out your Boot Sector launch. And then with the Boot Sector launch, normally the reason things like a Black Metal is a little bit better is because the Black Metal by itself allows you to also go into Romulus, and then Romulus can allow you to go and get the Dragon Ravine, which then if you have a good discard, you can potentially go off to the races from there, which I will explain in a second. But yeah, basically what you're wanting to do is go with the Black Metal Dragon. You could search out the Red MD with Chamber Dragon Maid. You could search out the Tidying. Now, granted, the Red MD allows for additional follow-up on your turn, whereas the Chamber Dragon Maid allows you to have disruption for the opponent's turn. As for things like Seyfert and Red Rose is, again, specifically good for things like the Adventure Engine version, where you're able to specifically have access to Baron. So any other level 7 and this guy equals Baron, as well as the follow-up into the Striker Dragon. So normally you won't actually go Red Rose into the Striker Dragon unless your hand is very odd, and like you kind of need to do that. So do keep that in mind. However, if you're able to do the full line with the Red Rose, you can go into a Basil Rose shoot to add additional follow-up there. The worst of the normal summons, I would say, is Rocket Tracer, and the reason for that is, while it can be added back to hand off of a Striker Dragon, oftentimes that means that you're wasting your normal summon on something that doesn't really gain you any other advantage, and you kind of have to none of these are really bad. It's just like you don't really get any additional advantage, and that's basically it. So I'm going to quickly do the combo for you here with a normal summon. So a big thing with this deck is that you will need at least a discard in your hand for you to do the full combo. So what we are going to do is we're going to start off with the Black Metal Dragon. We're going to send it to the graveyard for the Striker Dragon. And all of this can kind of be very similar with the other cards in your... that you would like normal summon. As long as you have one extender, which isn't that difficult, you're able to normally continue playing from here. But Black Metal just happens to do it the best with just the Soul discard and itself. So we're going to go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, and we are going to search out 2 cards here. It doesn't really matter which order. I guess it kind of does matter which order you want to do this in terms of chain links, but it basically is like, which one do you want more? Do you want the Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, or do you want the Boot Sector? And again, that kind of depends on your hand. Let's say my hand is this right now. So what we are going to do is we are going to banish the Striker Dragon in order to special summon out the Red MD. Then we will use the effect of Red MD, and if this was, say, a dragon, we could potentially special summon out the monster from our hand, but we are instead going to special summon the Black Metal. Then we are going to link both of these 2 off. We could either go Seals, which is probably better in this instance, given the fact that we don't really have anything for follow-up, but I'm going to take a little bit more of a bet, and we're going to go for something different. We're actually going to go for the Romulus. Now, with the Romulus, we will we will search as it is link summoned for the Dragon Ravine. Then we are going to activate the Dragon Ravine, and we are going to pitch to the graveyard the Driver. And then this will allow us to also send to the graveyard a Dragon Monster, and we're going to send the Absolouter. Absolouter will then allow us to search out the Rocket Tracer, so we're going to add that card to our hand. We will then just activate the Boot Sector launch and use its effect in order to special summon out our Rocket Tracer. At this point, we will activate the effect, locking ourselves into Darks of the Rocket Tracer, and popping the Boot Sector launch in order to special summon it from the deck either a Rocket Synchron or a Rocket Recharger. Obviously, the Recharger is better because it allows us to go into a level 8 monster. If I could find it... Yeah. So this is normally what you will do for the Rocket Tracer. Is you'll pop the Boot Sector launch and then just bring out the Rocket Recharger. This allows us to either go into a level 8 monster, or we could potentially link off into something like, say, we could link off into a Pisty and then go Quad Boral, or we could go into a myriad of different things. There are a wide variety of different options here. However, if you're a betting man like myself, you can go into the Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler's effect will then activate, and we will mill the top 5 cards of our deck, and we can add a light or dark from among them. We happen to mill something like Chaos Base. That's fantastic. Here we probably want to add to our hand the Noctivision Dragon, because if a Dark Dragon monster is special summoned to your field, you can special summon this card, which is very nice overall. Yeah, then we can go for the Chaos Base here. We can shuffle back the Striker Dragon and proceed from there. But let's say you didn't want to do this because, you know, you don't have any follow-up and you really need to get something guaranteed as disruption. So instead of going for the Chaos Ruler, there is a different line. So we're going to shuffle this back. We're going to put this back to the top of our deck. And we are going to say that these 2 are back on the field. Just ignore the 4 other cards that are currently in the grave. So what we can do here is we can actually go for the Pisty. We will special summon this guy over here, utilizing, let's say, this one. There it is. And then we can also link off these 2 in order to go for a Quad Boral. And we will special summon that guy here. Then we can activate the Pisty effect in order to bring back a monster, a dragon monster, that is in our graveyard. So we can bring back a myriad of things. The best one I would say to bring back is probably either Absolouter or just one of your rockets. It doesn't really matter all that much. You could even bring back the Romulus if you wanted to, seeing as how it is a Link 2 monster. but I don't think that that is all that necessary. So yeah, we'll just bring back to the field an Absa router. Now, granted, if we did end up going for the Romulus here, what we could actually do is just immediately go into Boral End and pass the turn on that, which isn't all that bad. But let's say we didn't want to do that. So what we are going to do is we're going to special summon out the Absa router, and then what we can do from there is we can actually declare the effect of our Quad Boral and pop itself, I believe. Oh, this does require a discard. So if you were to have another discard, you can go for the Quad Boral effect here. You can pitch a card and then target itself, pop it, and then go for the Recharger and the Tracer. However, if you don't want to do that, if you can't do that, or what have you, you can also go for a Hieratic Seal here with, you know, the Quad Boral and the other monster that you have, or whatever, right? Again, I do think in this instance, something like bringing back the... This doesn't say defense, does it? Oh, you can even bring back a banished monster. That's cool. Yeah, so... yeah, you could bring back your Romulus here if you wanted to, and then go into your Boral End. But let's say we have another discard, so we're going to actually just pop this guy with this guy, and then we can also go for the special summon of these two, and then we can go and link these off into a level 8, and then we can go for the Chaos Ruler and proceed from there. At this point, we're trying to end on something like a Boral End, or maybe a Hieratic Seal, maybe bringing back the Chaos Ruler with IP Masquerena on the field in order to go for a Unicorn, you know, depending on what your hand is. You could even potentially go into something like a Zombie Vampire if you have access to another level 8. Say, for example, you had a Synchron in rotation, a Rocket Synchron in rotation, you could do that as well. So yeah, there are a myriad of different lines from there, but that's kind of the basic combo. So one thing about this deck is that the combos are very non-linear and really hand-dependent. So, because of that, what we are actually going to end up doing here is I am just going to do a whole bunch of test hands and show you some of the boards that you could potentially end on. So here we have a pretty interesting hand. We have the Red Rose Dragon as well as the Black Metal. Obviously, we are going to try to go for the Black Metal here. So we're going to go for the Black Metal, and we're going to do the same thing that we did previously and go into the Striker Dragon. We're going to go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2 in order to search out our Red MD. Sent him to grave. Whoops, that's fine. And our Boot Sector. So we're going to add this guy to our hand. And then we are going to go and banish this guy in order to special summon out... Where? There it is. Special summon out this guy, and then we can just bring back our Black Metal into Romulus. Yay. To grave, to grave. And then we will also go into our Dragon Ravine from here. We're going to activate the Dragon Ravine effect, and we will send to the graveyard. We're going to send the Gamma, I guess. And we will send as well an Abs... No, that's not what I wanted. Send it to the graveyard. We'll send it to the graveyard, and then we will search out our Rocket Tracer. I know that this is basically the same... Stop. I know that this is basically the same combo, but hear me out. Things will be slightly different. So we're going to activate this. We're going to special summon out our Rocket Tracer. And then we can go for a Seals here and just pass on that because we do have other hand traps. This could allow us to also special summon out a Chamber Dragon Maid, which is pretty nice. We can also go and pop something with the Rocket Tracer in order to go into a Chaos Dragon, a Chaos Ruler. And you know what? Yeah, we're going to do that. I know this is the same thing, but, you know, might as well. It's fun. As I said, it's a lot of just, like, figuring out what lines you can take and what end boards you can end on. So we're going to send both of these to the graveyard in order to go into a Chaos Ruler. We're going to activate the effect of our Chaos Ruler. Sorry. We're going to mill the top 5. That's not what I wanted. Mill. And send to grave. And then here, because we already have some hand traps, it might be worth it to go for the effect veiler here and just add this guy to hand. So now we have 3 hand traps, which is, hey, that's pretty good. You know, we also have a Chaos Space, which can activate its effect. We'll banish it in order to shuffle back this guy to the extra deck, and then we will draw a card. Wow, fantastic. So yeah, we're just going to activate this, and we're going to mill to... My opponent would have, what, 35 probably? So we're going to mill a couple more. And, okay, Collapse Serpent, another Chaos Base. Ooh, Levianeer is very good. This is a very good hit. And the reason for this is because we have a Safer in Grave. So what we can do here is we can banish this guy to activate its graveyard effect in order to add back to our hand the Levianeer. Levianeer can then be activated in order to... or not activated, but can special summon itself. We're going to banish the Collapse Serpent. We're going to banish the Rocket Tracer. And another Dark. We're going to banish the... Black Metal. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to banish it. Okay, there we go. And then this guy will rip a card out of our opponent's hand. On top of that, we can then overlay these two in order to go into Zombie Vampire. I told you it would be different. So yeah, we can go into the Zombie Vampire here. We're going to detach specifically the Chaos Ruler because he can bring himself back by banishing a Light and a Dark. So there's that. We will then mill the top 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can special summon anything out from here. We've already utilized the Rocket Tracer effect, so there's no real point in going for that one. We could go for the Red Rose, which is interesting. We could also just straight up special summon out the Nibiru. That is a thing that we could do. I think probably going for the Red Rose is our best option. Even though it's not really going to be doing anything, it is probably just overall the best. Let's go for a Pisty here. We'll special summon him over here. We'll send this guy to grave. And then we can go for a... actually, do we even want to go for Pisty here? Or do I just want to end on Hieratic Seal? Yeah, I could have done that. Oh, I could end on, like, IP Masquerena. That's very interesting, isn't it? So here, what I'm thinking is we could either end on a Hieratic Seal or an IP Masquerena, or sorry, we could end on both of those, or we could end on something like Hieratic Seal and the Zombie Vampire, but there isn't really a whole lot more that we could do from here. We don't have access to a rocket monster, so we can't go quad Boral, though it would be nice. Granted, we do have the 3 hand traps. We do also have a really good discard, so maybe going IP Masquerena would be my best option. Yeah, so instead of doing this, we're going to send this guy back to the extra deck and bring out this guy again. Now, granted, my opponent could have had something that would have been really useful, but alas. We're going to go into a... IP Masquerena... I'm locked into Darks, so I can't actually go into the Hieratic Seal here. So yeah, let's go into the IP Masquerena, sending this guy to the graveyard, and we could go for Chaos Ruler. Oh, not what I wanted. We'll banish a light and a dark. Banish. And we'll actually special summon this guy, and then we could link all of these off if we wanted to into a Boral End, which would have protection even if its effects were negated from being destroyed. So there's that. I do think that is probably the best play. So we'll send all of this to the graveyard, except for this guy who will be banished. So This really doesn't look like a lot when you look at the field, but given the fact that, well, we did end up searching out an effect veiler, as well as we have the 2 other hand traps in our hand, and Boral and Dragon, which can add additional follow-up, and just is a guaranteed negate, more or less. All in all, it is fairly decent. We also still have follow-up with the Red Rose, because what we can do is, say we're able to go next, what we're going to do is we can normal summon this guy, the Red Rose, and we can send it to the graveyard in order to go into a Striker Dragon. The Striker Dragon can then pop itself in order to add to our hand something like a Rocket Tracer, or what have you. So actually, we're going to go and add the Rocket Recharger to our hand. Rocket Recharger will then activate, and it will discard itself in order to special summon out another monster from our hand of a different original type, right? You stop. Dark Dragon. A dark monster in your graveyard with a different original name than the targeted monster. So we could potentially even special summon out... No, can't do that one. We could summon out Levianeer, which wouldn't really activate its effects. We could go for Absorouter here, or we could summon out the Red MD. We then go Red MD here into something like a Romulus, because it gives us the most link materials. We could go into something like the Absorouter here. We could special summon out the Safer, depending on what else we have in hand, which could then potentially search out something else. We can even go like Chaos Space to shuffle something back as well. So yeah, we will go Banish. We're going to shuffle back the... yeah, we'll shuffle this guy back to bottom of deck. And we'll up to bottom of deck. We got to shuffle this, and then we will draw a card. Of course, another hand trap. But yeah, at this point we can go for like Absorouter. We could bring back the Red Rose and, you know, make another thing. We could go for Rocket Recharger. We could special summon out the Tracer since we haven't used its effect, and then we could special summon out another yeah, we could special summon out like the Synchron or something like that. So yeah, there's a few other things that we could do at that point. You know, we could then link off the monster that we summon off of the red MD as well as the red MD, and then go into the dark and then potentially steal a monster the opponent controls. We could go into the Quad Boral, pop itself, and bring back the Recharger and the other guy to go into the Borreload. We could go for a like Pisty here potentially, and then try and get we could go like Pisty into the Striker Dragon if we had... No, we can't really do that. Yeah, so never mind. Depending on if this card is still around or not, we could go like Hieratic Seal or what have you. But yeah, all in all, very solid. Just given the fact that you're able to play so many hand traps. So yeah, that's hopefully a more or less understanding of something that you can do. Let's do another test hand and see how this goes. Alright, so this hand is rather interesting, and the reason for that is because not only do we have Quick Launch, which is probably one of the best cards in the game, but we also have Gamma. So if my opponent were to activate something like an Ash Blossom on the Quick Launch, we'd be able to negate it and then gain extra material. So we would activate the Quick Launch here, potentially trying to bait out that Ash Blossom. Out comes the Rocket Tracer. We're always going to go for the Tracer here, just because it happens to be the best one to go for. We're then going to go and we could either normal summon the Chamber Dragon Maid here, or we could wait and actually just link off the Rocket Tracer now in order to go into a Striker Dragon. So we're going to do this just to kind of bait out any other interaction that my opponent might have. So we're going to go for the Striker Dragon, which will then allow us to go for a Boot Sector launch. The Boot Sector launch will be added to hand. We're going to then activate the effect of our Striker Dragon. We're going to pop itself in order to add back the Rocket Tracer to hand. We're then going to normal summon out our Chamber Dragon Maid. Chamber Dragon Maid will then search the Tidying. And at this point, we can go and activate the Boot Sector launch in order to special summon out our Rocket Tracer. We're then going to link off both of these into a Romulus, so we'll send this card to the graveyard, as well as this one, and the Romulus will then search out our Dragon Ravine to the hand. So then we can actually activate the Dragon Ravine, and we can activate the Dragon Ravine to send the card that we just searched with Tidying to the graveyard, and then we can search. We can send. What do we want to send here? Something like a Seifert or a Destrudo. Probably Destrudo, honestly. So we're going to send the Destrudo to the graveyard. Yeah. And then we are going to banish the Tidying in order to special summon out a Chamber. Cool. Then we can utilize the newly sent Destrudo, pay half of our life points, and special summon that card out as well. At this point, we can go into a... we can't go Pisty Quad Boral because we do not have a Rocket monster available to us. We've already used both effects of Striker Dragon, which are hard ones per turns, so we can't really do that either. We are currently a level 3 and a level 4, so we can't go into the Chaos Ruler as well. Honestly, our options are looking pretty slim, but... Yeah. Oh yeah, this is simple. So we special summon Pisty here, and then we can special summon the... Yeah, hold on. And then we can special summon out the second rocket... The second Rocket Tracer here, which would then allow us to activate the Pisty effect to special summon out one of our monsters here. We could even special summon out... Oh, no. Destrudo would go to the bottom of the deck. So we can special summon out the Chamber Dragon Maid once again, and we can go for... Actually, hold on. I don't think we've utilized Tracer, have we? No, indeed we have not. Yes, because we needed to special summon out the Tracer and then go into Romulus, so we didn't actually utilize the effect of Tracer here. So now we can actually utilize the effect of Tracer, and we can pop this in order to special summon out our... our Recharger. Cool, and then we can send both of these cards to the graveyard in order to go into our Chaos Ruler. We're going to activate the effect of Chaos Ruler. We're going to mill 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the best one for us to add is, honestly, the Chaos Creator. Yeah, sure, we'll add this to hand because it's rather interesting. We are then going to special summon the Chaos Creator by banishing a Light and a Dark. We are going to banish the only light that is in our graveyard, as well as the rocks. No, we're not going to banish the rock source. We're going to banish the Striker. So we'll banish that guy, and then we don't have that in grave. Okay, and then we can activate the... Oh, we can't activate this guy's effect. Is this guy an 8? 1, 2, 3, yeah, okay. So we're going to actually overlay these two into Zombie Vampire. We are then going to detach the Chaos Ruler, and we are going to go and mill 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can special summon something that was milled, and we are going to special summon out the Rocket Tracer. We can then go into the... See, now we could go into the Quad Boral as well. Yeah, so we could go Quad Boral in order to bring back 2 materials to potentially link off into a Borreload Savage, so I do think that that is probably the play. So we're going to send this card to the graveyard, and we're going to send this card to the graveyard in order to go into our Quad Boral. So we're going to special summon this guy right here. We're going to activate the effect. We're going to send this guy to the graveyard, or we're going to pop him by discarding the Gamma, and then this will allow us to special summon out the Rocket Tracer, as well as the Rocket Recharger. These two will then immediately be sent to the graveyard for the Synchro Summon of our Borreload Savage. Borreload Savage will then equip to itself the Quad Boral. So now it's got 2 tokens for Omni Negates. Pretty nice. Granted, if we get Nibiru'd, we're sad. So there's that. What am I thinking? Ah, yes. Okay. We will then special summon this guy by banishing a light and a dark And then out comes this guy, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 materials on our side of the field, which means we can now go into the Boral End. Boom. Either that, or technically we could have also gone into something like an IP Masquerena with the 2 other monsters, and then waited to potentially go into the Quad Boral, or the Boral End. We could have also gone into Nightmare Unicorn off of the IP Masquerena, or what have you. But overall, this is slightly better. However, the we're gonna set this. However, we don't have as many hand traps, and we still are able to add follow-up, which is very important, but now we have Omni Negates, as well as something like Called By. So, as you can see, it's still pretty good. We still opened with 3, I guess 2 hand traps and a Called By, so it was still only 2 cards that actually did anything, but as you can see, we were still able to end on a very different board, depending on the Chaos Ruler, mills, and the like. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Let's do one more test hand. Alright, so this hand is rather interesting because not only did we draw the Destrudo, but we also drew Noctivision. Noctivision is very good here because we do actually have a normal summon. So what we're going to do is we're going to normal summon the Rocket Tracer, and then we are going to go immediately into the Striker Dragon. Striker Dragon effect will activate, and we will be able to search out our boot sector. And we will also be able to special summon out our Noctivision Dragon because a Dark Dragon monster was special summoned. So out comes the Noctivision, which will immediately allow us to go into a Romulus. This will then also proc the Noctivision Dragon to draw us a card, but first and foremost we are going to search out a Ravine. I don't know, I think you can chain this differently. So you could have Romulus be Chainlink 1 if you wanted to, if you really wanted to make sure that that was searched. But normally I like to have it as Chainlink 2 to, as Chainlink 2, so that we don't end up drawing the Ravine and then basically not getting anything off of the Noctivision. Hopefully that made sense. We drew into Quick Launch, which is kind of crazy. But we are going to activate our Dragon Ravine, and we are going to send the Destrudo to the graveyard in order to add to our hand, or sorry, send to the graveyard, not add to our hand. It's not an add. Send the Abs-Router, which will then allow us to add to the hand the Rocket Tracer. We can then go and activate the effect, or not activate the effect, but just special summon out our Wyvern Burster by banishing something that from the grave. So we're going to banish the Striker Dragon. We can then go and activate our Quick Launch as well, which will allow us to grab up. Let's go for... We could either go for the Rocket Synchron, which will allow us to end on Hot Red Dragon, or we could go for the Rocket Tracer here, which... I think we want to go for the Rocket Synchron. So we're going to special summon this guy to our field. And this will go to grave, and then this will go to grave, and we will activate the Boot Sector Launch. We're then going to use that to special summon out our Rocket Tracer, and then we will utilize its effect in order to pop the Boot Sector and special summon out our... Where is he? Where is Rocket Recharger? There it is. So we're going to special summon out this guy. Then we're going to link off this one and this one in order to go into the Chaos Ruler. This is basically the combo that you're going to want to do as often as you can. Going through the Chaos Ruler with the Romulus is incredibly valuable. So yeah, we're just going to do that. This will then allow us to mill 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then add from that what we want. We probably want to add the... None of these are exceptional. I think the Chamber Dragon Maid is probably the best one to add to hand, but do not forget that we also have the Wyvern Burster in our graveyard, which has been activated because it was sent from field to grave. We now get to search out our Collapse Serpent. So at this point, we can actually just link or synchro off these two in order to go into our Hot Red Dragon, which is very nice. And then we have the... Yeah, then we have quite a bit going for us. So this is where things get a little bit interesting. Because we only have the one light in Grave, what we need to decide is whether or not we are going to go for the Collapse Serpent by banishing the Wyverburster, or if we want to go for the Chaos Ruler for the Wyverburster. So that's basically what is being decided at this point. Now, with the Collapse Serpent, we can do the Striker Pisty thing that we did previously, or we could even do the Quad Boral effect here. So I do think that that is probably the play. So we're going to banish from our Grave the Wyverburster in order to special summon out the Collapse Serpent. We can then send the Collapse Serpent to the graveyard in order to go into a Pisty, and then we can link off these two in order to go into a Quad Boral. And then we can special summon out using the Pisty any of our monsters that we so chose, which I don't think we've utilized the Destrudo as well. Ooh, that was a mistake. That's okay. So we could special summon, we could even special summon, oh no, we can't do that one. Have we utilized, we've utilized Tracer, haven't we? I still think that's probably worth, actually. Yeah, no. That's probably not what we want. We're going to special summon out the Absolouter. Yeah, we're going to go for the Absolouter here. And then we are going to activate the effect of the Quad Boral. We are going to pitch the chamber to the graveyard to pop itself in order to special summon out the Synchron and the Recharger, probably. Yeah, we're going to special summon the Synchron and the Recharger. Then we are going to link these two off. Or, sorry, not link them. Synchro them off in order to go for Borreload Savage. Borreload Savage will then equip to itself the Romulus. We'll go 1, 2. And then we can also go for the Destrudo here, paying half of our life points in order to special summon it as a level 3. How many materials do we have here? Not enough. So I'm currently locked out of link 2 or lower monsters. So I didn't technically have to go for the Destrudo there, but I didn't want to. We could technically go Nightmare Unicorn here, but it doesn't really do anything for us. So we could actually just keep this guy in Grave if we wanted to as well. We also don't have a light in Grave to banish for this guy, so there's no real point in going for anything at this point. Yeah, because we can't go into Hieratic Seal, because not only are we locked into Darks, but we're also locked out of our out of link 2 or lower. So I probably could have done something slightly different there. Yeah. Okay. Here's the play that would have been a little bit better. So we're going to oop, not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. There we go. We're gonna put this guy back to the extra deck. I think we'll go to Grave. We'll go to Grave. So at this point, what we can do is we can we can not activate the effect of the Quad Boral, but we can special summon out the what did we special summon? This guy, the Absolouter, which I also put into the wrong zone. Whoops, my bad. That's okay. Yeah, we can special summon. We could still special summon out the Absolouter. We're still going to discard the Chamber Dragon Maid for the effect, but we're not going to do that as of yet, because that would lock us out of link summoning. Oh, wait. Does that do anything? Nope, I lied. I lied once again. This specifically goes for rocket monsters. Yeah, there wasn't really anything else that I could do differently to have made that any better. No, I was right. Yeah, okay. So we'll just do this. I guess, hold on. I could have just special summoned the one off of the Quad Boral instead of, like, like, I popped the Pisty, and then instead of summoning the Recharger, I could have just summoned the Synchron. So there's that. Well, we could go Destrudo. There's no real point because we don't have any lights, so it's not like we're going to get enough materials to really link off into anything. Yeah. At this point, this is pretty good with the Imperm as well, and then we have potential follow-up, so it's not terrible. We even have this as follow-up as well as this. So yeah, not terrible, but not the greatest. Again, this is one of those things where it's like, it is a rather difficult deck to learn. I'm just kind of hopefully showing you guys some of the lines that you could take to get to various different end boards. So yeah, there's that. I would say things like Boral End are pretty good to end on. And normally, if you're going to end on something like Hieratic Seal, that normally means that you've been hand trapped and you just kind of need to end on something. It's not really terrible, but it's also not great. However, being able to non-target bounce a card your opponent controls and then go into something like a Chamber Dragon Maid or a Brotar or what have you is very nice. So yeah, there you go. All in all, this is the deck, and hopefully you guys were able to understand at least something. It's kind of hard to give you like a basic rundown of the deck because each hand is so different. But hopefully you know, at least now, prioritize going into the Chaos Ruler. Quad Boral locks you into Link 2 or locks you out of Link 2 or lower. The Rocket effects lock you into dark monsters, and so you kind of want to prioritize going into non-dark monsters such as Romulus prior to activating those effects, and the like. Yeah, end on Synchro monsters as soon as you can. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much so appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.